because they're time-based and specific in character. Each one has their own individual character. So you have to trust that this is enough. If you just do one of these sessions and make it your model, you will control fear of missing out. You won't have it because you're limiting your attention, your focus to one specific time of the day, and it meets and allows you to work within your life. See, you're trying to probably do something that your business, that your school schedule, or your family, your spouse, your children, something's preventing you to be in the New York session. You want to do what I'm doing. You want to be able to do what the community's doing, but you can't do it. And you're frustrated. Like, man, what the hell? Wish this guy would talk about something else besides this time of day. I just did today. Where are you in that? Because it checks somebody's box off everywhere. Every one of these time periods can be traded. I don't care where you live. I don't care where you live, what you're doing. You're going to have to make a sacrifice. You're going to have to, folks. If you want this bad enough, you're going to sacrifice. And here's the thing. If you don't back test it and see that there is absolute validity to what I'm teaching and showing you, forget the people that are making money with it. Forget all that, okay? These companies could be fake. They could be paying, they could probably paid actors by ICT. They're probably talking about money that doesn't even exist. This is make that argument. It's not true, but let's just say that for instance, okay? You looking at the old data, back testing and seeing it, and then thinking, okay, I understand the concept and I'm going to go forward and now watch it going forward within one of these time windows of the day. Is it a lot of time that you're investing for that particular trading day? No, it's not. That's an advantage. You're not sitting there like a zombie staring into the abyss of these candlesticks and just not knowing anything, which is very frustrating and it's draining. These markets are vampires. If you hook up an IV tube to you and let it take all your blood, it will suck you dry all the way to the marrow. So limit the exposure to it. If you can't find your setup in these times of the day, or if you lose, stop. You know what's never going to happen? You're never going to blow your account. You're never going to have major drawdown if you control your risk and keep it realistic and use real stops. You won't be fear of missing anything. You'll have a complete business model. And you won't have to work a part-time job schedule with it. It's very small in terms of your time and attention is required. But you have to put a lot of time in the beginning when you're back testing and looking at old moves, studying it. Do these things exist? Or is he talking out his ass again? I'm telling you, go back and look at the charts. You're going to see it. And it repeats all the time. But see, what happens is you get caught up in all the new things I'm teaching, all the new content, all the new concepts. Give me a new trick, ICT. Teach me another magic trick. How about just using what I already taught right now? I've made it very simple. I talked about very specific times of the day. That is rule-based because the algorithm is going to operate in these hours a very specific manner. And it's going to deliver a price. Buying and selling pressure is not going to be a factor. The algorithm will price in all of these setups. That's why it sounds like arrogance. That's why people say, I don't like his attitude. He's too arrogant, he's too cocky. That's because I know my shit. I know the market. Like the back of my hand, I know it. I know I'm not going to be surprised Monday. I'm not going to be surprised on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It doesn't mean I'm taking a trade. It just means I know what I'm looking for. And if it meets what I'm expecting, and it all lines up and I feel like it's something I want to do, done. You'll hear about it. And I'll ask you, do you want to see a dose? And you'll watch me go in there like I've already seen it before. I have, but nonetheless, you'll get that same skill set, but you're pushing it further in the future by trying to always change, always transition into something else. That 2022 model that I gave on YouTube last year, man, that thing is a strong model. And for the folks that say, can you just get off these 1-minute charts, ICT? Get off these intraday charts. I need something on a higher time frame. I want to be able to swing trade. Okay, go to a 4-hour chart. The same thing that you use, or I've been using on a 1 to 5 minute chart with that 2022 model, if you put it on a 4 hour chart, that will allow you to swing trade. You got to wait for it. It takes a long time. And it takes forever for the setups to pan out to your objectives. But guess what? Working class hero, that's your model. Did you have to change anything? Just the time frame. But all the logic is still there. You're not going to get a lot of trades. That's the sacrifice that you're going to have to make as a higher time frame swing trader. You're not getting a swing trade as many times as you can get a day trade or a scalp. I can find dozens of trades intraday. My students can find dozens of trades intraday. But we can't force dozens of swing trades. They don't form that frequent. You can't, because the higher time frames are what they are. So if you like frequency and to be able to have velocity in your money, you short-term trade intraday. You have no overnight risk, no gap risk. What's gap risk? The difference between where we close at 5 p.m. and where we open at 6 p.m. Where we close on Friday and where we open on Sunday. That's gap risk. In years before, I didn't mind holding over the weekend. I didn't mind holding overnight. I don't do that anymore. I will never do that in the future. I don't trust what can happen. They can do some crazy nonsensical thing, and all kinds of manual intervention comes in because of something happening in the world where one country doesn't like what another country is doing. And an event that may or may not be foreseeable occurs, and you're wiped out. A black swan event that we're in those conditions still, and it's getting more and more likely. All these factors make trading much harder. And I know there's competitors out there that like to sell their crap, and they like to use me as a sounding board to be able to say, okay, for the people that don't like ICT, come over to my house. I got this and I got that, and I can do this and I got cookies. Go over there. I'm not saying don't do that. Go over there. Whoever's trying to get your attention, if you're not happy here, if you're not finding what it is you're looking for here, go do something else. Really do it. You might find something that works for you. I'm not opposed to that. I'm just saying my stuff is superior to everybody else's. And it might still not be effective for you because you have whatever's going on in your head. And if they have something that is useful, that it makes a connection with you as a trader, and it helps you find profitability, great. Don't let me be an impediment to that. I'm never an impediment. But if you find profitability, don't come back and try to throw rocks at me and say, you asshole, you didn't teach me this stuff over here, so I hate you. Whatever. I'm happy that you're making money. That's what this is all about, man. This is it. I want all of you, even the folks that hate me, even the folks that can't find success in marketing their own stuff. I want all of you to do well, because I know what's coming. I've known it. I knew they've been following me for a long time. Have known that I've been saying this was going to come. Even when we were in the good times, I told you it was coming. And it feels like, oh, maybe it's getting better. It ain't getting better. They're just changing the way it looks, because they have a lot more progress to make over the next 18 months. Central bank digital currencies are coming. Your money is about to change and turn into something that you don't recognize. And it will have an on and off switch. You don't perform or behave the way they want you to do, you can't spend your money the way you want to spend it. And they're going to get control of everybody like that. Because you can say, I'm not going to do this and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to resist until they turn your food purchasing power off and you have children that are starving. And suddenly everything else that you've said in the past is going to mean nothing, because you're going to make sure your family's fed. Like I said, I don't have all the answers, but I'm doing whatever I can to have a clear conscience that if it's feasible for us, there's nothing guaranteeing that trading is going to be accessible like it is right now. These funded accounts, regulation can come in, change all that. Or it could be permitting it and then allow that type of thing and be regulated. Or we could have something happen where it disrupts the markets for a while. Imagine just for a second, and in closing, I want you to think about something here. If someone were to told you that the whole world was going to come to a screeching halt over something that was invisible, had the ability to kill you if you stood up in a restaurant, but it was okay for you to sit down in a restaurant. So it was only effective at certain heights while in a restaurant. That event, okay, that startled everybody into thinking the end of the world was, right here upon us, and we're all going to die from some plague. And every global industry came to a screeching halt. You couldn't travel, you can't go anywhere, you can't do this, can't do that. If someone would have told you that was going to happen a year before, 2 years before, and that we wouldn't be allowed to see people at funerals that we loved, we couldn't visit them in the hospital, we couldn't do anything, we couldn't even go to work unless you had this remedy, they said, you all would have laughed and said, there's no way in the world this would ever happen. And yet it did. The damage that has done, we're just now coming to grips with it. And you're seeing banks failing. You're seeing financial institutions that they're going to go out of business. Big names are going to go out of business. All this stuff is designed. And it's not outside of the realm of potentially possible that we could have some kind of major disruption to our financial industry in the form of investing, 401k. I've always said that the 401k is a perfect it's like a big stop loss. It's a liquidity pool that they're going to raid. Think about it. All these people out here that have contributed to their 401 life savings in their 401. That's a big pocket of money that's sitting out there collectively across a lot of people's, retirement accounts. It may not be individually a large amount of money. For some it is, but not a lot of people have millions of dollars in their 401k. But what happens if they have like 100,000 or 150,000 and do that over millions of people, hundreds of millions of people to have their retirement account they've been investing in, the company they worked for invested in with them? We have a unpayable debt. We can't pay that. Okay, if you knew how much it would take for every individual person in our country to pay that on that debt, it's shocking. And they're going to raise the debt ceiling again, and it keeps calling it a debt ceiling, and it keeps getting moved up. It's not a debt ceiling, but they are absolutely going to bankrupt our country to the point where there is nothing. Money won't have the same value that it has right now. And I told you last year, okay, for the folks that have been coming to these Twitter spaces, I told you last year, watch Saudi Arabia. Watch all the other countries. We're in some deep shit if everybody starts turning away from the dollar. And here we are. Months later, in spring, like I told you, April or May, you'll start seeing it. There it is. It's happening. It's unfolding exactly as I told you it would. In 2016, before Trump was elected, and I had never voted ever in my life, and I was not a Trumper. I'm not someone that falls in line with this Hegelian dialect. It's an illusion of choice. You think you have a choice. You don't. They're all players in this theater. The whole world's a stage, and money is a control mechanism. Where it used to be a tool, now it's a control mechanism. We're going to be told what we can and can't do because our money will be the control catalyst. Think about it. If it's a central bank digital currency, you can't get mad at the establishment and say, man, F you, I'm going to the bank and kick my money out and sticking it in mason jars and putting it in my backyard.